Which game should you be placing first five wagers on this Wednesday, the 29th on the MLB card? Well, you're going to find that out right here on First Pitch. Dan Alexander with you, and joining me are apparently the first five duo of handicappers. We got Bryan, Power, and Mark Zinno. And don't worry, they're not just going half a game. They're going a full 9 innings for you here on the show, trying to find you some winnings. But we will be talking a lot of first five wagers. And BP, let's kick it off with you. You're actually playing somewhat of a doubleheader yourself, as you were just on WagerTalk earlier today. While you're hanging out with us throughout the day, make sure you hit that like button and you are subscribed. But Marlins and Padres, man, this is a series that has been all about pitching. And when you look at the pitching matchup in this one, seems like Wednesday's finale should be no different with Braxton Garrett and Yu Darvish on the mound. So for you, it's a first five wager. Which pitcher do you think might just have the edge here? The guy who still looking for a loss on the year? What say you?
Yeah, you talk about the amount of runs being scored here. Miami, going back the last 6 games, they have not had a single one of them have more than 5 total runs scored. So scoring has been scarce when the Marlins have been involved. Dan, reminder, this is a day game here, 4:10 Eastern. I liked the Padres yesterday. I talked about that on the morning wager with Mark, and that line moved 20 cents in the Padres' direction. Wouldn't you know, Padres ended up winning 4-0. That's how we like it. For today, the full game price is obviously a bit steeper on the Padres, but I found a way to play them, and it is the first five, Dan. I will lay the half run with the home team here. Braxton Garrett was great his last time out. I understand that. He tossed a complete game shutout in Arizona, but his first 2 starts of the year, he's only started 3 times because of injury. 11 runs allowed in just 9 2/3 innings those first 2 starts, so that's something to keep in mind. Now, Darvish, his last time out, he gets hammered by the Yankees, gives up 7 runs to them. But prior to that, he hadn't allowed a single run in 24 innings pitched, and that include outings against the Braves and the Dodgers. So we're talking about a guy who's faced the Yankees, the Braves, the Dodgers his last 3 times out. Now he's up against Miami. Second worst team in all of baseball, worst team in the National League. I think those are fair assessments of what's going on South Beach. And Miami, in those last 6 games I referenced at the top, they have scored a total, just themselves, 9 runs. Putrid stuff. They average 3 runs per game on the road for the year. They were shut out yesterday. That's the 4th time they were shut out this year, Dan. 0-3 off the previous 3 shutout losses are the Marlins. San Diego's offense, I understand it's not been great in this series so far, but it hasn't had to be. 4 runs, 2 runs, those were enough the last 2 days. I think San Diego's a good baseball team. They outscored opponents by more than 100 runs last year, 3rd best differential in the NL. I think a playoff team, and if that intuition, that assessment, if you will, is correct, this is the kind of series they should sweep. They probably will, but in the interest of price, I will lay the half run in the first 5 with San Diego.
The half run in the first 5. That's the play for our man, Bryan Power, WT.buzz/BP. Shout out to the chat joining us live. They're already buzzing, talking some dogs of the day is our man, Titan CT. We'll touch upon that. Have Cash, Wisconsin guy, Lord Farquad, Eric D, Tyler Lee, Todd joining us here in the chat room. We greatly appreciate it. Hit that little like button while you're hanging out with us, and we say thank you for that. Indeed, Wisconsin guy, was a rough night for the Yankees, but at least we got our Anthony Volpe prop home. So that's always a positive silver lining there. Mark Zinno, he knows a little bit about the Yankees. He's here with us, and yes, the chat room is right. We've had like a crossover episode of First Pitch has now become the morning wager. So this is the afternoon wager, starring our morning wager hosts here.
That's a good thing. That means that morning wagers traction, baby. I mean, VP and Zinno in the mornings are as good as coffee and bagels, bro.
Joe Ranieri behind the scenes might have a little bit something different to say about that, waking up with you two gentlemen. But I will say the results speak for themselves, and it's a great way to start the day, and it's a great reason to be subscribed. So when you see when these guys go live, but headaches notwithstanding, let's talk this Royals and Minnesota Twins game, because the Twins have kind of been like a sneaky little wagon. They're looking to win their third series in a row. If they can get this win here today, I think they've won like 6 out of their last 7, something like that. So sneaky, the Twins have been one of the hotter teams in baseball. Does that mean we just look to ride them here, maybe start fast early in this game, or is the value potentially on the Royals starting this game off strong? What do you think, Mark?
Well, the Royals come into this contest losing 2 in a row and 3 straight on the road. So there may be a better sense of urgency here with KC. But for me, it's about the pitching matchup with Seth Lugo on the mound for the Royals, who's 8-1 with a 1.74 ERA and a 0.97 WHIP, one of the leading Cy Young candidates this year. And the Royals are 8-4 when he starts. So, I mean, they have had a lot of success with Lugo on the mound. And their bats have kind of been kept in check for the most part in the first 2 games, only scoring 5 runs and then 2 runs last night. But I suspect that'll change against Bailey Ober. Now, Ober, in general, has been very good the last 2 years. His numbers this year don't look that great with that 4.33 ERA, but he still does have the 1.04 WHIP. And he's been very good at home, 2-0 on the year, a 2.57 ERA, and holding opposing hitters to a 1.67 average. However, the last 3 starts that Bailey Ober has made against the Kansas City Royals, he's lost them all, and he has given up 8 runs in the first start this year against them and 6 runs in his last start last year. Faced him twice last year. They lost both those games. So Ober is a guy that the Kansas City Royals have had some success against. I think the bats wake up here. The Royals have been one of the surprise teams, one of the better teams this year across the board, one of the more profitable teams. They're 15-12 on the run line on the road, just 13-14 straight up. But I like this spot here. It's a 4-game series, and you don't ever want to head into the final game of that 4-game series losing the first 3. So I get a little bit of urgency here from the Royals. Bats wake up here. Love this spot here. We'll take him in the first 5 against Bailey Ober, because I have a sense here, Dan, that the Royals have burned me a lot this year playing him in the first 5, full disclosure, because they've ended up scoring late. But it's one of those things here where when you look at the Twins and the way, they are and how good their bullpen is, it's one of those deals where, look, if they ain't scoring early, they probably ain't scoring late against this Minnesota pitching staff. I mean, this is a bullpen that has a 1.2 WHIP and a very moderate 3.8 ERA. They don't walk a lot of batters in the bullpen. So I think the Royals get out to an early lead here. Let's hold it to the first 5 and trust that Lugo does most of the heavy lifting here to get them home.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue if you just look at Lugo's numbers that, hey, backing them early in this one. Honestly, I definitely get what we're saying as far as the Kansas City bats coming alive, but even with this total sitting at 7.5, I think we could see some runs early in this game. So we're talking first 5 wagers. I might even think about playing that first 5 over. I know it's kind of counterintuitive to maybe how we're both looking at this game, but Kansas City can still have a lead with Lugo and still be putting up runs in this one, especially just if you look at what Ober's done. So maybe they're the ones who contribute to that, but I don't know. You're getting a nice price because you're looking at a low 7.5. It's not one that I placed, but just hearing your breakdown there, if you do think Kansas City bats are coming alive, that could be worth a little bit of a look there. So hop below in the comments. Let us know anything that is standing out to you, like our man Titan CT. He says he's got his dog of the day, and it's taking the points with Boston as they're taking on the Baltimore Orioles. It's Burns and Crawford. A lot of good, at least name pitcher matchups here in MLB Wednesday action, but the price you have to lay if you want to back Baltimore, it's nearing $2 in some spots. You're getting as high as about a 170 take back on the dog. Zinno, any thoughts on that potentially being the barking dog here of the day?
I didn't want to step in front of the Orioles for a second straight, and especially I played them last night with Grayson Rodriguez, their best starter on the mound, outside of Burns, at least from a record standpoint, and how much the Orioles win when he's on the mound. So back-to-back, you get 2 top-line starters here for the Orioles. It's gutsy. I mean, there's a lot of reasons to like Cutter Crawford here and a lot of reasons why to think that the Red Sox can get to Burns. But this is a team that's 7-4 when Burns is on the mound, and Burns feels like he's due for a little bit more of some. I don't want to call it positive aggression, but for a team that started out, so good when he was on the mound in his first, 5 starts, they won them all. They've lost, 4 of their last 6 starts when he's on the mound. But you know what you're getting with Corbin Burns? You're probably getting 6 innings. He's gone 6 innings at least in 6 consecutive starts here. So the quality start rate for Corbin Burns is as high as anybody's going to have in baseball. The Red Sox are a team that strikes out a lot on the road. I noted that last night when I played on Grayson Rodriguez. And even though Rodriguez got tagged for a bunch of runs, he still struck out 10 batters. So if Burns is as effective as I think he's going to be here, I don't know if the Red Sox are going to be posting a lot of runners up early because they strike out so much on the road.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning too. Sure, you get that 8-3 big win, probably makes your eye pop out if you're just running down the score sheet. But when you dive a little bit deeper in what happened yesterday, Baltimore left 10 stranded. So It wasn't like, sure, they only got the 3 across, but it wasn't like it was a team that just wasn't seeing the ball, wasn't hitting the ball. I'm kind of with you with Burns on the bump. Any thoughts for you on this one, potentially being a dog of the day candidate for you, BP, or would your money be elsewhere on a barking dog?
Well, plus 1.5 is not that expensive right here on Boston. It's minus 135, and you're looking at the total, which is down to 7.5. So the odds makers are telling you runs are going to be scarce. I like Crawford, other than I didn't like him his last start, how he performed. That was rather bad. He gave up 6 runs, but you look at what he'd done before that. He'd been largely good. A lot of quality starts involved in there. A lot of times he allowed 2 runs, 1 run, 0 runs. So this is a division game. It's the 3rd game of the series. These teams know each other well. So, again, if you like Boston, if you think runs are going to be scarce, plus 1.5 is not that expensive here whatsoever. And that is probably how I would look. Red Sox I think are better than they're given credit for. They have the 6th best run differential in the American League. So I know no one gave them a chance in that division to make the playoffs at the start of the year, but they're better than Tampa Bay and Toronto. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. And, no, it's a fair breakdown there. Hop below in the comments and let us know which dog you are eyeing on the board today, and we'll touch upon some of those games. But guys, it's inevitable. Just like Prez somehow bringing up something stupid on WagerTalk today. The lock of the century is that the chat is somehow going to get me to talk about the Philadelphia Phillies. And I will remind you that yesterday this homer warned you Phillies weren't the parlay piece with Wheeler on the mound. Some people wanted to lay a 1.5 with them. They didn't even get a run across. Bryce Harper looks like he's swinging out of his shoes. Still can't figure out, what Schwarber is potentially doing. So Phillies and San Francisco, the chat is split on how to bet this one. We got our man Rich C saying Phillies avoid the sweep today. Our man Tyler saying I'm fading them again tonight. Sorry about it. He's fading the Philadelphia Phillies, which is actually an afternoon game in this one. So guys, thoughts on this, because we've touched upon it a couple different times, is like, when were the Phillies gonna start regressing to the mean? Maybe you didn't think it would be against a team with like San Francisco that hasn't quite been able to figure out themselves, but this stretch coming up for the Phillies, it's going to be tough to find buy signs for me on this team. BP, it's a bullpen game, right? So the Phillies need to bounce back. They're playing against the bullpen. What could go wrong, right? It's too easy to take the Phillies here. When it seems too easy, it usually is for a reason. What do you think?
Yeah, so I would be surprised if the Phillies got swept here. I don't think the Giants are that good. They've had a lot of late inning luck go their way over the last week or so. This is the first time all year, as I'm sure you know, Dan, that the Phillies have lost 3 in a row. Streak that goes back to the previous series against Colorado. I think they've now lost 5 of 6 overall, if memory serves me correct. The issue I have with the Phillies is Sanchez, specifically his 1.84 whip on the road. Mm-hmm. So that is what kept me off the Phillies in this game. But I think if you want to back the Phillies, I would play them over their team total. I know they didn't score yesterday, but I think they're going to score against Harrison. I know the Giants have won Harrison's last 8 starts, but that's misleading. He's got a 6 ERA and a 1.53 whip in the last 3. He's allowed 11 runs in 15 innings pitched. Gave up 5 runs his last time out against the Mets. That was another one of those situations where the Giants rallied back from a 4-run deficit to steal the game in the late innings. The Giants bullpen, I think, is below average still. Philadelphia's bullpen's below average as well. I look at this game. I actually disagree with the market entirely, who has been betting the under. I think there's going to be runs in this game. I don't like either starter necessarily, and both offenses this month have hit lefties really well. The Phillies, win or lose, they usually bring the offense. You're talking about teams that have WRC pluses north of 120 against lefties this month. So I think there's going to be runs in this game, particularly from the Phillies side.
Hey, Dan, let me
what do you think about this one, Zinno?
Yeah, look, here's the thing about the Giants, okay? They've been a tough team to figure out. Now, they're 2 games above 500, yet they have a negative 14 run differential. Within their own division, the Padres are 2 games above 500, and they have a plus 13 run differential. The Phillies' run differential is the best in the National League at plus 88 and second best in Major League Baseball. So just from that alone, when you see these situations manifest itself, there's only 1 or 2 ways to play this. If you want to play on the Phillies, lay the 1.5 for plus money. If you want to play on the Giants, take them on the money line, right? Because the Giants, if they're going to win, are likely going to win the game 3-2, right? And if the Phillies are going to win the game, it tells you that they're probably going to blow them out or at least win by 2 runs, given the Giants' negative run differential here. So if I agree with BP, and it's not often I disagree with him. Look at him. He's smart. He's gorgeous. What's not to love? If runs are going to be scored, it favors the Phillies, and I'd lay the 1.5 here. That's kind of just from a price standpoint, and given it's the Giants, and full disclosure, again, it's a tough team to figure out because, there are games that they win that are close, and there are games that they lose that are ugly. So you don't know which team is going to show up night in and night out, but the price is sort of dictating the way to play that for me.
Less than 20 minutes into the show, we can cash the underdog ticket of Mark Zinno hitting on Bryan Power right out of the gate. That's impressive stuff. The love knows no bounds for the Morning Wager crew here. And hey, you got to call him like you see him, right? Call him like you see him. Speaking of getting excited, when you brought up the Phillies runs, I think our man in the chat, Eric D, needed to change his pants. He said, BP runs, let's go. The Philadelphia Phillies homer. Very excited that Bryan Power is seeing some runs stacking up for the Phils.
RBI leader back in the lineup today for the Phillies, too, after getting the day off yesterday. That they were not at full strength. Yeah, but so, that's another reason I think to maybe expect the Phillies to be more productive at the plate. Lord knows they can't be less productive because if they've changed the rules on me, Dan, you cannot score less than 0 runs.
Yeah, you quite literally can't. You cannot go negative. That is maybe the best piece of information that we have ever gotten on the WagerTalk TV YouTube channel. Give this guy a like. For hard-hitting stuff like that, you can't get negative runs. You got to give a like and subscribe to the page. But yeah, to your point, Bone being back should be a good boost. A lot of people thought maybe him getting taken out of the lineup was punitive because of the errors that cost him in Game 1. But apparently, according to the skip, Thompson, he was saying, hey, he was going to be out of the lineup regardless. So, that's all just good fodder for that horrible station, WIP, there in Philadelphia. But we digress and we move on. We got a person who is definitely smart, handsome, brilliant in the chat over there on YouTube Shorts because his name is Danny. That comes with the territory there. So Danny is asking, and no, it's not my burner, who y'all got for the Rangers and Diamondbacks game? I'm thinking the Rangers should take this one. So, Zinno, I'll start with you. Any thoughts here in a Nelson and Dunning matchup? This one's going here shortly, so we'll hit on it real quick.
Yeah, I don't like to play on Dane Dunning. Last year was different. Last year was different when they were scoring a ton of runs for him, and the Texas Rangers as a team were scoring a ton of runs. That's just not been the case this year. He is getting 6.2 runs of support per start, but this is an Arizona team that, again, tough to figure out just because they haven't hit like we thought they were going to. But as I just mentioned, they do have a positive run differential here. I don't know. The Rangers are a tough team to back. I mean, there's a rematch of the World Series, right? Both of these offenses have been a little bit sluggish. I lean the Diamondbacks here. Again, it's hard for me to get to a spot where I want to back Dane Dunning because there is a lot of variance and sort of erraticness in his starts. I mean, look, 5-2, 2, 4-2. I mean, and some of the bigger runs he's given up against some of the weaker lineups like Seattle. So it's tough to figure out which Dane Dunning is getting on the mound from start to start.
Yeah, and Joe doing a great job on the back end here, monitoring the YouTube Shorts chat. He points out a good point. Both pitchers are gas cans, so maybe the over is worth a look. It's for what it's worth. We've been seeing all kinds of over money coming in this one. Still painted at 9, but we are seeing kind of a split as far as where that is shaded. You got like some offshores that are shaded towards the under. You got one of the more notable offshores shaded towards the over. It's sitting at 9. Key number there. Any thoughts on the total for you, Bri, before we move on here?
Look, I wanted to fade Dane Dunning yesterday. I thought he was going to start for Texas. They pulled the old switcheroo. They called up Eovaldi, and they wound up winning the game. It was going to be a first 5, but I thought Fott against Dunning would have been a big starting pitching edge for the D-backs. Look, I'm not betting on Dane Dunning. He's got negative regression all over the profile. He's only made 1 start since returning from injury. As Zinno hit on, it did not go well. 5 runs allowed and 3 and a third innings pitched. Nelson has not been great for Arizona, but one thing that you can sort of hang your hat on getting better with him, his left on base percentage is just awful. It's 68.5. That's not going to continue. I mean, he's going to get better when runners are on. You just can't get any worse than that, really. And Texas, guys, if you are thinking over, here's the one piece of caution I'll give you. The number of times this month that Texas has scored more than 4 runs, just 4 in a game. They have not been scoring at all. I think they average just 3.9 runs per game at home. So I know Zinno touched on it a little bit. Not the same offense as 2023. Quite frankly, neither of these teams are as good as they were in 2023. I would be stunned, positively stunned, if we saw a repeat World Series matchup this October. Neither of these teams, I think, are even making the playoffs.
At Bryan Power Wins there on Twitter. Follow him. Give him a shout out. You can follow Mark Zinno at Mark Zinno, Zinno. Nice and easy to find him there. And you can find me at Newbie Talks. We got JRT over on the YouTube Shorts feed. Always love seeing some new names in there. If you haven't already, make sure you are subscribed. But JRT asking any thoughts here, guys? Dodgers, Mets, Paxton, and Peterson, guy that I actually don't have any data up here on my screen on him as far as a starting pitcher. So, Zinno, I'm going to throw it back your way. This one, and again, one of those earlier games, 4:10 this one goes. So we'll circle back, talk some night games for the folks watching on the rewatch. But Dodgers, Mets, how we betting this one? Paxton, for what it's worth, hasn't lost a start yet.
Yeah, that's misleading. He's not been good.
That's fair. If you look at the ERA, that's fair.
When you have as many walks as you do strikeouts, that's a problem. That means you've been playing with fire the entire season and getting away with it, and that's only going to last for so long. So there is no way I am betting on the Dodgers with James Paxton on the mound. I mean, just look at this number alone. The Mets are a team that's 10 games below 500. The Dodgers are 23 above. And you're telling me they're only laying minus 120, minus 130, whatever the number is that's up there? Like, that's just insane. Like, Paxton is about to get burned by somebody. Now, are the Mets the team to do it? I mean, betting on the Mets is an experience of its own. It's kind of like getting a proctology exam. You just, you're hoping for the best news, but it never usually turns out well. So there's no way I would bet the Dodgers here, period. It's Mets or pass.
Yeah, and BP, want to get your thoughts on this one. Tyler pointing out that Peterson, he's coming off of surgery, but, quote, feels like a new man. So much like me after the haircut, feeling like a new man. How are you looking to bet this one, man?
Yeah, co-sign what Zinno just said about Paxton. He is someone I either fade or just pass on the game. As a matter of fact, last time out, I faded the Dodgers with him on the mound, but I took the plus 1.5 with the Reds. Now, I didn't need it. The Reds won that game 9-6. Paxton did not figure into the decision. As you mentioned, Dan, he's still technically unbeaten on the year, 5-0 in his 9 starts. The team's 7-2 in his 9 starts. But the issue for me is price. I think a lot of people are hip to Paxton just not being as good as his record and want to fade him. But here's the thing. I mentioned that I was able to grab plus 1.5 with the Reds last time Paxton pitched at a very affordable price. Paxton was on the road as he is here. The Mets, I don't know if you think they're better than the Reds. They're not demonstrably better than the Reds. So you compare the two prices here, how plus 1.5 will cost you an arm and a leg. I'm not seeing I don't want to get involved with the Mets at this price because Zinno touched on it. The Mets aren't that great. I don't know if I can trust them to win the game. Well, at least with the Reds, I had the 1.5 in my back pocket.
I'll add this, guys, real quick. James Paxton in his career against the current Mets, whatever the lineup may be, I know the lineup is out here, but all the Mets on their roster right now have a career .339 average against him with a .610 slugging percentage and an OPS over 1,000 in their career against James Paxton. So maybe it is the right way to go. You're looking at Jeff McNeil batting .571, JD Martinez .455, Francisco Lindor has a double and a home run against him. Pete Alonso is batting .333 against him. It's about 60 at-bat sample size, so it's not small. It's not large, but it's not incredibly small. But there's been a good amount of success by this Mets lineup against James Paxton in his career. And if you're going to give away free passes the way James Paxton does, those can turn into runs pretty quickly.
Yeah, and we got City by the Bay with some Bryan Power level analysis. He just says Paxton sucks. So there you go. That's all you need.
Technical handicap. That's the technical handicap of the game, right there.
Exactly. I hate when people bore me with numbers.
Bryan Power's technical handicap is James Paxton is ass. That's what he normally would say. That's
a Joe Ranieri handicap. Hot ass. Hot ass. Don't forget the hot ass. Throw these guys a like if you haven't already. We would greatly appreciate it. Let's pivot to some of these games that are going this evening. Guys, I think they're still scoring runs in Colorado after what happened last evening. The win streak ends for the Guardians. They shrug a little bit and then say, we'll just have 13 come across. They get the win back. But the thing that kind of gets underscored is the fact that Colorado has just been hitting, especially in this series. It hasn't been a problem for them. This bats are seeing it really well. It's like pitching almost becomes tertiary in these matchups just because they've been flying over. Another high total. It is in Colorado, so that's no different there. We are tracking some spotty weather a little bit. Probably shouldn't be heavy enough to make a difference in any delays or affecting this game at all, but it is something worth mentioning. Do we just keep riding the over here, BP? I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I mean, the Guardians' offense has been way, way better than expected this year. I talked about this on some show at some point earlier this week, that a big key is with Ramirez was intentionally walked a lot last year, and Naylor being behind him this year has counteracted that. I think last year Ramirez was intentionally walked 22 times. This year, I think it's only been 2 or 3 times he's been intentionally walked. You look at Logan Allen, the starter for the Guardians, 3-0 his last 3 starts, but his whip is a little concerning for the year. It's approaching 1.5. Colorado's always a threat to give up runs. So, yeah, I mean, it would be over or pass. You see the number of runs we've seen scored, 14 in the opener on Monday, 20 yesterday. Colorado has been swinging the bat pretty well overall, as you alluded to, Dan. They had a game with 19 runs not that long ago. And the Guardians have gone over now in 5 of their last 7, 5-1-1 to the over their last 7 games. Homered 4 times yesterday, so there is really no reason to expect not a lot of offense in this one.
Yeah, and I mean, just look at what has been happening recently there at Coors Field. It's been regularity, just runs. What say you in this one, Zinno? Again, with the total the way that it is, but this is what you see with Colorado totals. we just keep riding it, right? I mean, it's 20 runs yesterday. 20. We got plenty of cushion with the over.
I mean, we do, but I kind of like Logan Allen. I know his ERA hasn't been great overall on the season, but when you kind of dissect that a little bit, he's been much better away than he has been at home this year. That's for darn sure. I mean, opposing hitters at home are hitting .319 against him. It drops nearly 50 points when he's on the road. Make of that what you will. But also, you look at the starter for Colorado and Ty Blach, whatever his name is. Anyway, this is a Guardians team that doesn't strike out a lot. Fifth lowest K rate on the road in Major League Baseball. Blach only has 12 strikeouts in 27 2/3 innings. So that's certainly not his way, is to strike guys out. When you give me a lineup like Cleveland that's putting the bat on the ball as well as they are, I think the edge goes to Cleveland in the scoring runs department here. How much will Colorado score? I don't know. I can't say. I mean, I'm not going to deny what they've done as of late here, but I give the edge to the Guardians here.
Maybe Guardians team
below
total.
In the comments.
Guys,
go ahead, BP.
Maybe Guardians team total, just based on what Zinno was saying, because you look at Allen's last 4 starts, Dan, the Guardians have scored 35 runs in those 4 games alone. Good. So, yeah, that's a lot. That's almost 9 per game. So you would expect the Guardians probably to do the heavy lifting, and the number's not too high. So, yeah, I mean, Guardians team total over might be worth a look based on what Zinno just said.
Yeah, potential to get in there on the total and not have to back, the highest total on the board going over with the squarest play that you possibly can make on the board. That's Bryan Power, Mark Zinno with me as well. Gentlemen, let's talk some of these best bets going this evening. We already had some folks asking about this Mariners and Astros game. I said, hey, you're going to have to wait because my man Bryan Power's got it in his best bets. So BP, let us know what you got locked and loaded over at WagerTalk.com, and let us know how we're going to be betting Mariners and Astros.
Yeah, just a quick note. Mariners, Astros here, best bet for the show. Not a client play. My top 2 MLB plays for Monday are still available, but just for a limited time. They are both day games, so head on over to WT.buzz/BP right now. But with no NBA tonight, Dan, I definitely want to give the people something to possibly bet in the evening. So let's look at Houston and Seattle. The Mariners have won the first 2 games this series, 3-2 and 4-2. My original thought was to back the Mariners to make it 3 straight. But you mentioned I was on Wager Talk today earlier, and I listened to Triggs' breakdown. He made some good points. Nevertheless, I still think Seattle first 5 is how I would play this. Few reasons. 1, price is still pretty reasonable, -115. 2, we're protected, insured, if you will, in case if the game is tied after 5. Obviously, we do not have that luxury with a full game wager. And lastly, the Mariners, I know they've been coming from behind a lot lately, but if they're to win tonight, I think it's on the arm of George Kirby. Playing the first 5 here, it just boils for me down to trusting Kirby more than I do Justin Verlander, who's going for the Stros. Kirby, I know he's off the back-to-back subpar outings, but those were both on the road. At home, how's he done this year? Well, how about a 2.97 ERA, 0.82 whip, and he's 4-1. You go back to last season, Kirby against the Astros, he's faced the last 3 times he's faced him. He's given up just 2 runs, 18 2/3 innings. And looking at Kirby and Verlander, Kirby is the one I think you could trust to go longer. Look at his outs recorded prop at DraftKings, guys. -220 on 17.5. The books think he's going at least 6 here. Meanwhile, you look at the 3 teams Verlander's beaten in 2024. A's, Tigers, Nationals. Not exactly a murderer's row. The Tigers are a respectable team, but not very good offensively. Houston hasn't been good on the road this year either. So Seattle, first 5 is your show best bet here today.
Seattle money line, first 5. Tyler bringing up a good question, though, that feels like a Teddy Covers style follow-up. So Brian, with all the problems that the Astros have had with the bullpen, why take the bullpen out of the equation here? Why not just go full game for the Seattle Mariners on your play today?
Well, Seattle's got a good bullpen, too, right? Good. That was very good. And you've got me also stammering like Teddy does sometimes. Look, I think, going back to what I heard, Trick made a good point. Like, these 2 teams I've got them power rated pretty evenly. And the idea that Seattle could take 3 straight, Some doubt kind of creeping into my mind. I just think if Seattle, as much as they've succeeded in the late innings recently, I trust Kirby more than Verlander, Dan, and that's what it boils down to. And like I said, we're insured. If for some reason this is a 1-1 game after 5, okay, we push instead of having to wait the late innings and maybe some hijinks break out there. The price is not bad. Like it's minus 115 for the first 5. So, that's why we'll just limit our play on Seattle tonight to the first 5 innings rather than the full game.
All right, I'll allow that follow-up so I don't get to triumphantly sip my tea like Teddy does when he stumps people. So I'll leave it at that. Mark Zinno also has a best bet, and he's got best bets locked and loaded up over at his page, wt.buzz/MZ. And for you, Zinno, you want to talk game 2 of the doubleheader here for the Pirates and the Tigers. And I hope the Pirates can start off nice with Skeeny's on the mound, because it couldn't start off much worse, I guess, than this first game has worked out for them. So game 2 of the doubleheader, bounce back time. We back in Skeeny's on the mound. How do we bet this one?
Yeah, we are. Looking, it sets up really nicely here after the way game 1 has started, guys. And this was added before the show for me as a client play, just because of the way this whole thing sets up, which is we get Paul Skeeny's on the mound here. We know how good he's been. Look, he faced a really good lineup in his first 2 times out in the Cubs and was able to limit the damage in his first 2 starts. 10 innings, just 3 runs, and struck out 18 batters. He faced the Giants last time out, 6 innings, gave up just 1 run, only struck out 3. What we know about the Tigers is this is not a lineup that I ever want to back, period. So I get a situation here where I got a Tigers team that is out to an 8-0 lead right now in the 8th inning of this game. So they're likely going to go on to win this one without any sweat here. And we get Skeens on the mound, their best pitcher for the Pirates in game 2. Strangely enough, Jared Jones got rocked today for the Pirates here. But the other thing here, and I'll give Ralph Michaels a nod as he lets me know this here, that away teams that lost game 1 of the doubleheader are 72-70, but with an average line of plus 110, they are plus 608 ROI. Now, since 2021, away favorites of minus 120 or higher off a loss now playing game 2, they're 19-7. That's 73%. Also, game 2 of the doubleheader is a favorite off a shutout loss, which is what we are trending towards here, 22-11, which is 67% and a 10.8% ROI here. So we're hoping for this shutout holds to form here. As again, we have 8-0 here in the top of the 8th, so 6 more outs for Detroit to get here before they get there. I will back Paul Skeens all the way in this spot here and look at the Pirates lineup to be able to do enough here against the pitcher, by the way, for the Detroit Tigers, who was called up for this matchup alone. Cater Montero does not have a start this year. He was in the minors, so this is his major league debut against one of the toughest, pitchers in baseball as we know it right now, and a guy who's pumping 100 here. Give me the Pirates on the money line today.
Yep, Montero, isn't that call me by your name guy? So a name that doesn't sound familiar to me against arguably one of the few must-watch pitchers in the league right now with the young phenom in Paul Skeens. And also the pen, Ralph Michaels, he was dropping in. If this shutout does hold, I don't know if you mentioned this, the game 2 favorites off a shutout loss, 22-11, 67%, over a 10.8% ROI. So if trend's your thing, from our man Ralph Michaels, a good trend breakdown there for you. Gentlemen, before we shut things down, we had Javier hopping in here in the chat a little bit late here, just wanting to hear some thoughts on the Yankees and the Angels. We talked about big favorites, asking 2 bills for Gil on the mound. Zinno, any thoughts you want to drop him on the way out here as far as the Yankees and Angels are concerned?
Yeah, look, you get a good pitching matchup. Tyler Anderson has been very good this year for the Angels, although he does have a little bit of a walk problem. And the Yankees have the 2nd highest walk rate against left-handers this year. So that means after a team that only scored 3 runs last night, there's a chance that those walks could come back to hurt Tyler Anderson. By the way, real quick, forgot to mention, that Pirates play is one of 4 plays I have up at the site right now, guys, over at wt.buzz/MZ. So 2 of these, that one, another afternoon game, we'll get 2 more in the nightcap for the night slate. So go to wt.buzz/MZ, get all those plays now.
Giving them away for free. BP, you want to get the last word on Yankees and Angels, and then we'll shut things down, send people on their way for some day game baseball action?
Yeah, I think you can parlay the Yankees full game and first five here. I think they dominate after the loss. I think they roll. I think they control from the start. The Angels stink. I know they won yesterday, but I mean they're not a good baseball team. They just aren't. The Yankees. I mean, I don't see one. Again, yes, they won 4-3 last night. They came from behind to do so. But the Yankees, their offense curiously silent down the stretch. I don't think that happens again. I don't see a single aspect that the Angels are better than the Yankees in this matchup. So I would take Yankees first five and full game, parlay them together, and just hope for a rout from the road team, which I know would make Zinno very happy.
Yeah, and hey, if you want to take a favorite and turn it into plus money, if you think Louis Gill's historic month will continue to end the month, plus 105, Louis Gill to record the win. You know, I love my pitcher props to record a win. If you think you're going to get them in the first five, you want to try and find a way to make that price make a little bit more sense. Hey, Louis Gill to get the win on the game. That's a little plus 105.
It's Louis Gill. Heel.
Gill?
Yeah.
Gill? I think of that Saturday Night Live skit with all the Gills, and anytime I see G-I-L, all I can think about is the Will Ferrell skit with Gill as the pirate. So it will forever be Gill for me, even though it is Hill, Louis Hill. So that's on me, guys. We learned together here on First Pitch. Yeah. So we learned pronunciations. We learned that teams can't go negative. And we learned that Paxton sucks. That's what we learn here on First Pitch. That and a quarter will get you a cup of coffee. We appreciate these guys, Bryan Power, Mark Zinno. Use that quarter. Don't buy the coffee. Buy these guys' premium picks over at WagerTalk.com. Before you leave us, make sure you hit that like button and make sure you hit that bell as well so you never miss it when we go live. No NBA tip-off today, but we will be back on Thursday, and we got daily videos dropping across the WagerTalk TV YouTube channel so you can get all the info you need to cash on all the sports you love. We do it on an hourly basis here. Best of luck, everyone. Get this money, and we'll see you tomorrow for some day game action, an early edition of First Pitch coming your way. Best of luck till then. We'll see you next time.